My dad did this drawing, and I painted this. I want to take inspiration as well as all the major forms and details from my dad's drawing, but add my own sensibilities to it so it's a little bit different. The spirit of the original drawing from my dad is really important to maintain, so I'm trying to honor that. I'm creating my own drawing as a base to work off of. And the first thing I'm thinking about is perspective. My dad often does these storybook style straight on facades, which have a lot of character. But to make it my own, I'm going to add some more dimension by slightly turning it in perspective. There are a few details like this little room with a balcony that I just adjusted to create a stronger composition. It works fine in his design, but for my camera angle, it feels better on the left side in my opinion. It's just kind of an interesting detail, so I want to make sure that we can see it a bit more, so we can get the most out of it. We used to play this game when I was a kid. I remember sitting in the family room and my dad drawing a little part of a character and then passing me the book, and then I would draw another part, and we'd end up with this crazy looking, half robot, alien, weird character, and part of it was drawn really well by my dad and part of it was drawn by me being, 9 or 10 years old or something. And that's kind of the inspiration for this video, and him and I like to do this still every now and then. It's just fun to collaborate and share our interests this way. We're very different artists in many ways, but working on my dad's stuff, it kind of reminds me where my passion for art came from in the first place. So I slowed this part down a bit so you can see the colorizing process. As always, I'm using gradient maps, so I won't go into this because I've kind of talked about it a lot in other videos. But I slowed it down so you can at least see what I'm doing. This one's really simple. I just pretty much only use one gradient map just to get an overall color palette, since the image is pretty monochromatic, so it was really simple. There's a lot, you can get a lot of mileage and color variation just through the levels of saturation. A lot of people try and overuse shifting hues, I think, when sometimes you can get really nice, kind of tasteful results by just desaturating a color or increasing saturation in really specific areas. My dad actually did do a painting of this drawing in watercolor, and it's very, whimsical and happy, so I wanted to differentiate it even further in my version by shrouding the house in this atmosphere and changing the season to be winter. And I want to create some mystery in the mood and a feeling of isolation. So I've always loved this idea of a little cozy room in the middle of a snowstorm, and that's where I got the idea for this little tiny lit window in the very height of this this house. That just in and of itself creates a little bit of storytelling. It's not very deep or anything, but it does at least raise some questions in the mind of the viewer. It also creates a focal point for the image, and with the image being so monochromatically blue, I thought this would be a really strong focal point, and it's quite subtle. I'm trying to keep it really small. I don't want it to have any crazy glowing effects or anything. I'm always just trying to think of my vision for the image overall and the mood, and I just want to make sure I'm not veering off too far and just going on autopilot and creating different effects and crazy colors that don't match with my original intention. By the way, I should mention that I actively resisted flipping the canvas constantly in Photoshop for this process to just create hopefully a smoother viewing experience. I think working a lot in Procreate lately actually has helped curb my obsessive flipping of the canvas, since it takes a few clicks to do it in Procreate, whereas in Photoshop it's a single keystroke. I'll still flip now and then, as it is an important thing to do, but watching some of my previous videos, it's clear that it's become a little bit superfluous and just obsessive. It's just a habit that anytime I do something, I flip the canvas, and so I'm trying to do it a bit less frequently, so it's a little bit easier to watch in a time lapse. had to make sure I didn't edit out the most important part of the image, which is obviously painting this doghouse. What's fun about taking these ideas and painting them with a bit more realism is I like to see the forms in more 3D space and imagine how the building could actually make sense and what the interior would look like. And I know that's something my dad thinks about a lot too, and he has some pet peeves about seeing other art with window placements that don't make sense and, you know, stairs that lead to nothing. So I know he thinks about that stuff, and I also enjoy thinking about that stuff when I'm doing this kind of thing, because it just helps me get immersed into the process more when I'm drawing these little balconies and these little windows, thinking about what that might look like on the inside and just how claustrophobic and cramped this house would be. Thinking about that kind of stuff always helps me enjoy the process a little bit more and be a little bit more focused. My dad also has a channel here on YouTube. His name is Gary Frederick. You just look up Gary Frederick Art. You'll find his channel. He does a lot of watercolor paintings, and his videos are really great. They're super casual and really great to have on while you're working. He also has a Patreon if you want to get some extra stuff or connect with him directly. So yeah, go check his stuff out. I remember actually getting so frustrated when I was a little kid, trying to draw just like my dad did, and getting frustrated with myself when I couldn't create stuff that looked as good as his. And it's just funny to think about that now, because I ended up developing my own style, obviously, but I can still feel some of those instincts that were instilled in me from my dad. Even those initial experiences trying to do exactly what he was doing, those are still lingering in my mind, and they still make their way into the work that I do now. Thank you so much, as always, for watching, everyone. If you like what I'm doing, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. If you have any feedback for me, please leave a comment and I'll get back to you. I'll see you in the next video.